In the headlines, President Tinubu approves top Islamic clerics to negotiate with their counterparts in Niger as coup leaders form new government. Gunmen attack Plateau community, killing 17 persons in fresh attack. Tailors count their losses as suspected thieves set old Gombe market ablaze. And on the foreign scene, Ecuador declares state of emergency after the killing of presidential candidate. Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to the news update on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. We begin in Abuja as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the request by a delegation of leaders of major Islamic groups in Nigeria to allow them dialogue with their counterparts in Niger Republic on the restoration of peace and democratic government in the country. The clerics who are opposed to war with the Nigerian military as threatened by the economic community of West African states say apart from the dire consequences of an armed conflict, they are enjoined by their religious belief to seek mediation first in cases like the current face-off between the regional bloc and Niger Republic. Sheikh Abdullah Balalo of Izala Group and Sheikh Abdurrahman Ahmad of Ansaruddin, who spoke to journalists on behalf of the leaders of other sects, say they want peace and harmony to reign across the region.
The ulama advise Mr. President that we want peace and reconciliation. Always, if there is anything happen between you and your neighbor, the Holy Quran commands you to reconcile. So we want reconciliation. That's what we are here. And our able leader and president accepted the offer that he wants us to intervene and to talk to our brothers over there in Niger Republic, the scholars as well there, how can we come together and bring a lasting solution to this problem.
The president deplored, coup d'etat in the Sahel region, and as a Democrat himself, he said he will do everything to ensure that there is democracy, justice, freedom, and peace in the sub-region. We as ulama are also committed to peace and justice. And the president will be enabling, the government will be enabling the ulama to mediate as it is appropriate.
Now, staying with that development, the military leaders in Niger who seized power in a coup last month have formed a new government according to a decree read out on national television early on Thursday. Prime Minister Ali Mohammed Lamin Zain will lead the 21-member government with generals from the new military governing council heading the defense and interior ministries. The coup leaders have continued to hold on to power despite threats of military intervention from ECOWAS. Residents of Megateri local government area of Jigawa State say they are currently living in a state of confusion and fear over the recent Nigeria-Niger border closure. According to some, it is due to the unpredictability of government's plans in the coming days, especially with Niger's military junta not ready to yield to ECOWAS demands. Trust TV's Salim Umar Ibrahim, who was there, now reports.
There is strict compliance with the directives of the federal government of Nigeria by the security operatives at both entry and exit points of Megateri border. Petty traders and others offering ease of transportation, mostly commercial tricyclists, are also living in a tight situation amidst fear due to the border closure between Nigeria and Niger Republic.
We are in a very tight situation. Everybody is just managing, but not happy. Relationship, businesses have been cut off. Everything has gone sideways. We get what we eat and feed our family here. A day, at least I get 7,000 to 8,000, but now we'll only get 700 naira, or at most 1,000 naira.
According to residents and businessmen, all activities have been brought to a halt as most businesses have been cut off by the development.
Within this week alone, this issue has brought hardship to our people, both in Niger and Nigeria. The relationship between us is long since the days of our forefathers. I used to go and buy camels, but since the time this started, I have not gone anywhere. There is fear and confusion, especially we that are living here at the border. Between us and Nigerians, it's just the border, but we are one. Our relationships have been brought to a halt. Both of us are imprisoned. We are really suffering.
Megatari border is one of the biggest, active and popular sharing boundaries with Guru and Machina in Yobe states, while on the other side shares border with Babamutum, Zango and Mai Adua border stations in Katsina state. Adari is the immediate community in Niger Republic from Nigeria's Megatari, with a neighboring village, Jobi, also sitting on the borderline between the two countries. Currently, there is no movement from all entry and exit points with the exception of security officials. Salim Umar Ibrahim reporting for Trust TV.
Now in Plateau State, gunmen on Thursday attacked Taipan community of Barikin Ladi local government area of Plateau State, killing 17 persons. Daily Trust reports that the attack occurred in the dead of night, and this attack is coming just 3 days after a commuter was killed while returning from Kara, a cattle market in Buruku in the Taipan area. The Birom Youth Molders Association had on Tuesday condemned the killing of the commuter, explaining that the attack was purely an act of criminality by enemies of peace in the community. Now, the spokesperson of the Operation Safe Haven, a multi-security task force maintaining peace in the state, Captain Ola James, who confirmed the incident, says troops have already been deployed to the community to restore law and order. Well, earlier we spoke to Ado Musa, a Daily Trust correspondent in Plateau State, and he gave us this recent update.
We woke up this morning with this sad story of the attack on Taipan community where 17 people were killed. While confirming the incident to Trust TV, the spokesperson of Operation Safe Haven, Captain Ola James, said the operation had received information around 8 p.m. of Wednesday that there may be an attack on that community. And according to him, on the receipt of the information, the commander of the operation had deployed troops at the entrance of Taipan toward Jos and at the entrance of Barikin Ladi to prevent any possible attack on the village. But he said the attackers follow a different way and cause the havoc. And he said at the moment troops have been deployed to restore normalcy in the area.
To Gombe State now, where tellers at the old Gombe market have lost millions of naira worth of investment after suspected thieves set ablaze some shops. The suspects were alleged to have stolen clothes, textile materials and sewing machines at night before burning down the shops. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
Getting a 3 square meal daily is nearly impossible for Aminu Musa and his family since his business was burnt to ashes by suspected thieves. His sewing machines were set ablaze, now left with nothing to operate.
My
family depends on food or money donations from friends because the suspects have carted away our tools and burnt the rest. The most painful thing is that they have burnt our machines. We could have resumed our work with the remaining ones. This is not the first time shops are looted here, but it is probably the first time for looters to set the buildings ablaze. The tailors seek to rebuild their businesses, which according to them could only be achieved with government support. We are yet to receive any assistance. As I speak to you, the victims don't have food. We just returned from fundraising campaign. Government should help us. Although it is not clear who are responsible for the attack, the shop owners are calling on security agencies and the government to investigate and bring the perpetrators to justice. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Residents and business owners in Yenagoa, the Plateau State capital, are calling on the federal government to fix Nigeria's ailing refineries in a bid to curtail the rising cost of living across the country. Trust TV's Friday, Ebimoboe Peter reports.
The removal of fuel subsidy in the country have caused increase in the price of commodities, premium motor spirit, popularly known as fuel, and even hike in transportation system. Residents and business owners in Yenagoa who could not bear the pains occasioned by the subsidy removal called on the federal government to fix the refineries in the country. A resident in Yenagoa, Bekela Bomompa Odu, said the subsidy removal affects everybody, including the rich and the poor, that even palliative cannot solve the situation considering the era we are now.
Subsidy removal is affecting everybody in the country. Why am I saying so? Because once you touch one sector of the economy as sensitive as fuel, and you know that everybody, either you travel by air, you travel by road, you travel by water, you travel by air, and even if you travel by air, you have to take a taxi. So it affects almost everybody in this country, particularly people who are not buoyant.
Also, is business owners in Yenagoa, named by Emmanuel, who is a provision store owner, and Emmanuel Friday, a laundry shop owner, expressed the difficulties they experienced as a result of the subsidy removal, that their businesses has not been good ever since the federal government pronouncement.
In drinks, copiers are no longer only gen based on the fuel subsidy. Yes, because when you go to fuel station to buy a fuel now, you cannot be able to afford the liter of fuel. So based on in provision level to go to market and buy goods there, the provisions there. Now the transport affair is very costly. So when you look those transport affair now to put the price of stay, customer will definitely complain. So it's very affected.
The thing they worry me well now because of that. So don't put my price for the product to where they are young. Customer need to come again and miss it, don't get work. Before now 400 why they collect it, now say na 600. What thing I want now, make the government do, so make it then got the full price down.
Friday, Ebimoboe Peter, Trust TV News, Yenagoa.
Now to some of the day's other news. The Executive Director of the National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, in Plateau State, Mariam Mohammed, says the institution has uncovered fake anthrax vaccines in Nasarawa, Kaduna, Kwara and Oyo states. She disclosed this in Abuja on Wednesday during a consultative meeting of veterinary experts, federal and state officials at the Food and Agriculture Organization's Emergency Center of Transboundary Animal Diseases. The meeting was to strengthen the national strategic response to the current outbreak of anthrax in the country. Mohammed said the fake vaccines were sold at major livestock markets across the 4 states. She says a test conducted on the vaccines at the Institute's laboratory showed that they contain plain water and, quote, in some cases, water containing sugar. She advises those in charge of the livestock markets to manage the supply of vaccines therein, noting that Even genuine vaccines might become useless if not properly stored and the cold chain not properly maintained. Well, you're watching the news update on Trust TV. Coming up ahead, we'll tell you about how tackling farmer herder crisis is the panacea for food security in Nigeria. More on this and many more stories coming up ahead after the break.
That's great.
Right, welcome back to the news and thank you very much for staying with us. Here's a quick reminder of our top stories at this hour. President Tinubu approves top Islamic clerics to negotiate with their counterparts in Niger as coup leaders form a new government. Gunmen attacked Plateau community, killing 17 persons in fresh attack in Taipan community. Now, a cross-section of Benue residents are calling on the federal and state governments to put modalities in place to enable farmers go back to their ancestral farms as a way of ensuring food security across the state and indeed the country. The residents are worried that nothing tangible has been achieved regarding the farmer-herder crisis, which has negatively impacted farming and food production in the state. Jimmy Azande reports.
While a lot is said about the agricultural economy, some are of the opinion that the first thing to do is to address the farmer-herder crisis through the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law of the state.
Let government take a dispassionate look at it. Bring all the key stakeholders, and I emphasize businesses because that's important. Bring the herding community, bring the businesses, bring everybody. Give them equal ground to speak about this law and suggest new ways of going about it. And implement their recommendations, because their recommendations will help us make progress. Let's not politicize this. It's not about politics. Secondly, there are mitigation measures. Let mitigation measures be developed on the basis of the evidence on ground, not on the basis of somebody's figment of the imagination.
They mention some of the effects on the agricultural economy in the state.
The effect is serious on food production. The effect is serious on animal husbandry. The effect is serious on farming practices and all of that. And nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to give serious attention to it.
There is hope that the issue will be addressed as hinted by the government.
It's pointing to the fact that many things will change in the Ministry of Agriculture. I think we're going to experience better time this time because, like I said to His Excellency, this is the first time in about 10 years that we are having a discussion on the auspices of the governor. Called us together and said, let's interact on the issues that affect agriculture.
One of the campaign promises of Governor Hyacinth Elia was to return the farmers displaced by herders' invasion of the state to their ancestral homes within his first 100 days in office. Many are looking forward to the fulfillment of that promise with each passing day. Jimmy Azandi, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
Now, the federal government has urged the National Council on Climate Change to develop a comprehensive climate change adaptation project for flood management in Nigeria. This will form part of the agenda at the COP28 scheduled to hold later in the year in Dubai. They define regional priorities of ECOWAS. Now, government expressed the hope that the project will help to avert severe flooding across Nigeria in the future and design a clear plan to resuscitate the Lake Chad Basin. The report.
Climate change is set to reduce the length and reliability of the rainy season, increase the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, and cause land degradation, soil erosion, and low farm output. Nigeria is gearing up for the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference of Parties, COP28. Its participation will focus on federal government's plan to implement a $100 billion loss and damage funding. This represents a commitment to bolster climate finance through various channels.
The loss and damage agreement, which provided hope for many low-income countries bearing the brunt of climate change, must be finalized in Dubai. Just energy transition, where we expect discussions to focus on incentivizing and enabling emerging economies to transit sustainably in accordance with their national priorities, capacities, and based on greater financial support, must also be finalized, taking cognizance of the need to include more favorable terms for developing countries along with technology transfer.
With an existing act stressing on the Climate Change Action Plan, Nigeria's priorities are set to be measured.
It is the implementation of these various instruments that you hear what the Renewable Energy Agency is doing in terms of promoting mini-grids. You hear what the NNPC and Ministry of Petroleum are doing with respect to implementing the petroleum industry bill that sets to end gas flaring by 2030. You also hear what Ministry of Agriculture is doing in terms of carrying out and popularizing climate-smart agriculture that minimizes wastage of both water, the soil, and other resources that go into agriculture.
Climate change is one of the most pressing issues facing the world today. Nigeria, as Africa's most populous and largest economy, is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change due to its diverse ecological zones, high dependence on natural resources, and low adaptive capacity. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, Ecuadorian presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio has been shot dead during a campaign rally in the capital, Quito. The incident also led to the killing of a suspect who died of his injuries sustained during a shootout. The country's president, Guillermo Lasso, confirmed the killing of Villavicencio on Wednesday and promised that the crime would not go unpunished. He says he was outraged and shocked by the assassination of the presidential candidate and assured that although the organized crime in the country has gone very far, but the full weight of the law will fall on the perpetrators. Lasso says he would not stop, or rather he would host top security officials at an urgent meeting. Villavicencio, 59 years of age, is a former legislator and was shot after a campaign event in the capital. Meanwhile, President Guillermo Lasso has declared a 2-month state of emergency on Thursday, but vowed to hold general elections scheduled to hold later this month. And in sports, Lagos State government has assured the Confederation of African Football of its preparedness to provide good sporting facilities and the enabling environment to boost the interests of Niger in co-hosting the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations with Republic of Benin. The Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, gave the assurance while receiving on behalf of the State Governor the Confederation of African Football inspection team on a courtesy visit to the Round House in Alausa, Ikeja, Lagos. Hamzat noted that the state has all it takes as one of the centers of successfully hosting a great sporting event like the Africa Cup of Nations, saying that, quote, Lagos has the people, the facilities, and the commitment of the government. Speaking further, the Deputy Governor says the state is aiming beyond the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations and it also plans to build the interest of young generations in football. Well, that's it. You're up to date with the latest news stories at this hour. Feel free to follow us across our social media platforms for more content and for more news. Do visit our website, trusttv.com. My name is Abdullah Ahmed. Thank you for watching.